You couldn't even bake something yourself." My sister laughed, lifting the plastic lid off the pie. My mom smirked. "That's embarrassing, Olivia." "Store-bought?" My brother added, "Guess some people just don't have talent in the kitchen." I forced a smile. "Yeah, I guess not." What they didn't know was that pie came from my kitchen. My name is Olivia Carter, and I'm 35 years old. I've always been the quiet one in my family, the practical daughter who didn't chase flashy careers. I run a small bakery downtown, nothing fancy, just brick walls, warm ovens, and long mornings that start at 4 in the morning. Growing up, my older sister was the favorite. She had the corporate job, the big salary, the impressive fiancé. My parents loved introducing her at gatherings. "She's a senior marketing executive," they'd say with pride. When they introduced me, it was usually, "Olivia makes cupcakes." They said it like it was a hobby. I wasn't rich or glamorous, but I had something they didn't expect. I had grit. I had patience. I had a business that survived a pandemic, inflation, and months where I wasn't sure I'd make rent. I worked farmers markets before I could afford a storefront. I delivered wedding cakes myself in my old sedan. I learned accounting from YouTube videos at midnight. But to my family, I was still the daughter who liked to bake. Every Thanksgiving, I offered to bring dessert. Every year, they made jokes. "Don't quit your day job. At least the grocery store never disappoints." I laughed along because it was easier than defending myself. But this year felt different. This year, I had just signed papers to expand into the building next door. This year, my bakery had been voted best local dessert by the city paper. And still, when I walked in holding that pie, they saw nothing. If you've ever worked hard at something people dismissed, I see you. Have you ever built something from the ground up while people acted like it was small? Subscribe to this channel if you've been underestimated. Drop your story in the comments. I read every one. And if you've ever smiled through a joke that hurt more than you let on, click hype. Let's build a space where quiet success is still success. You're not just anything. Now let me tell you what happened that night. Thanksgiving dinner at my parents' house. The whole extended family was there. Aunts, uncles, cousins filling every chair around the long dining table. The dining room smelled like roasted turkey and sage stuffing. Candles flickered on the mantel. Everything looked perfect, like a scene from a magazine. I arrived with 3 desserts from my bakery, but I'd placed them in simple store containers. I thought it would be easier that way. Less questions, less attention. I was wrong. My sister saw the plastic lid first. She lifted it slowly, like she was inspecting evidence. "Next year, maybe we'll teach Olivia how to bake from scratch," she announced loudly. Laughter spread across the table like wildfire. My mom picked up the conversation without missing a beat. "She's always taken shortcuts," she said, shaking her head like I was a puzzle she couldn't solve. I tried to explain lightly. "It's still good," I said, keeping my voice even. My brother cut in before I could say more. "Relax, we're joking. Don't be sensitive." But it didn't feel like a joke. The real humiliation came when they pushed my pie aside for a gourmet dessert my sister had ordered from an upscale caterer. "Look at this presentation," someone said. "Now this is professional." The dessert was a towering chocolate creation with gold leaf and edible flowers. My aunt leaned over and whispered to me, loud enough for others to hear, "Maybe you should think about something more stable. Baking isn't forever." I nodded and smiled. I always smiled. During dinner, my dad stood up to make a toast. He raised his glass and praised my sister's promotion. He went on and on about her achievements, her vision, her future. He talked about the deals she'd closed and the respect she'd earned in her industry. Then he turned to me. "And Olivia, well, at least she enjoys what she does." The tone made it sound like a consolation prize, like I was the family project that never quite worked out. I looked down at my plate. My hands felt cold. The sound of silverware clinking against plates seemed louder than it should have been. Then my 10-year-old niece said something that made the room go silent. "Mom, isn't that pie from the bakery we love downtown?" My sister barely looked up. "No, honey, that place is professional." I sat there, heart pounding in my chest. The noise of forks scraping plates felt deafening. That's the moment I realized they don't just underestimate me. They don't see me at all. The months after Thanksgiving were worse. My family continued minimizing my career at every opportunity. My sister casually said during a Sunday brunch, "You must make cute little money." It wasn't a question. It was a dismissal. She sipped her overpriced latte and scrolled through her phone while she said it. My mom suggested I partner with my sister's company for real marketing guidance, as if everything I'd done so far had been guesswork. She said it would give me credibility. I started noticing they recommended other bakeries to friends instead of mine. A cousin got married and ordered a cake from across town. I wasn't even asked. When I mentioned it to my mom, she said they probably wanted something upscale. Then came the family event. My sister was hosting a dinner party for her networking group. She hired a dessert vendor. It was my bakery's direct competitor. I found out through an Instagram story. She'd posted photos of the setup with the vendor's name tagged proudly. I confronted her gently the next day. "Why didn't you ask me?" She didn't even hesitate. I didn't want it to look amateur. That word stuck. Amateur. It sat heavy in my chest for days. I kept hearing it in her voice. Amateur. Like everything I'd built meant nothing. But the deepest cut came a few weeks later. I discovered my parents had co-signed a business loan for my sister's startup idea. She wanted to launch some kind of wellness app. They gave her $50,000 in backing. Years ago, when I needed help securing my first oven loan, they refused. They said it was too risky. They said small businesses fail. I brought it up carefully one evening. Dad looked at me like I was being unreasonable. "Her ideas scale," he said flatly. "Yours are small." That night, I cried in my empty bakery. The smell of sugar and butter still hung in the air from the morning's bake. I sat on the floor near the ovens and let myself break. The tile was cold beneath me. The hum of the refrigerators was the only sound. Then something shifted. I stopped trying to win their approval. I started planning something bigger. What they didn't know was I wasn't just running a local bakery. I had built a massive anonymous baking channel online, recipe videos, behind-the-scenes clips, business advice for aspiring bakers. I had over 2 million subscribers. I partnered with brands, kitchen equipment companies, flour manufacturers, specialty ingredient suppliers. I had passive income streams they couldn't imagine. Sponsorship deals that paid more than my sister's salary. I kept it separate from my personal life. No last name, no family connections, just my first name and my work. I filmed everything myself in the early days, late at night after closing the bakery. I edited on my laptop until my eyes burned. I responded to comments during slow afternoons. My audience grew slowly at first, then exploded. People loved the authenticity. They loved watching someone build a real business without pretending it was easy. My sister once mocked that channel at dinner. "Those online baking influencers aren't real entrepreneurs," she said, scrolling through her phone. I stayed silent, but inside I smiled. I had a plan they never saw coming. A city-wide food festival was coming up in 3 months. It was the biggest culinary event our city hosted every year. Chefs, bakers, food critics, sponsors, tens of thousands of attendees, national media coverage, and I had just been invited as a keynote speaker, under my real name. They wanted me to talk about building a business from the ground up. They wanted me to share my story. The festival organizers didn't know I was the anonymous channel creator yet. But I was about to tell them, and my whole family would be there. My childhood best friend, Megan, knows everything. She helped me film my first recipe video in her kitchen years ago. She held the camera while I fumbled through explanations and burned 2 batches of cookies. She's been there since the beginning. She celebrated with me when I hit my first 1,000 subscribers. She stayed up with me the night my website crashed from too much traffic. Megan called me the night I got the keynote invitation. "You're doing this, right?" she asked. I wasn't sure at first. It felt too big, too exposed. What if I failed in front of everyone? What if my family was right about me? She reminded me of something I'd forgotten. "You don't owe them small," she said. "You've been making yourself smaller to make them comfortable. Stop." Her words hit hard. I realized she was right. I'd been shrinking myself for years, apologizing for success, downplaying achievements. Megan pushed me to accept a televised interview that would air the week before the festival. It was a local morning show segment about women entrepreneurs. The producer wanted to feature my journey from farmers' markets to a thriving business. I agreed. Meanwhile, my family assumed I'd attend Thanksgiving again quietly this year. Business as usual. My sister bragged about her struggling startup at every gathering, but she still acted superior. She talked about venture capital meetings that never materialized, partnerships that fell through. But she framed everything as learning experiences and strategic pivots. My parents kept investing more money into her failing idea. They believed in her vision. They believed I was still the cute little baker with the modest storefront. They had no idea what I'd been building in the background. Megan helped me craft my public announcement. We worked late into the night writing my speech. She made sure every word counted. We practiced delivery. We anticipated questions. She reminded me to breathe. Tension built toward the festival. My whole family planned to attend as guests of my sister's company's sponsor. She'd gotten them VIP passes. They were excited to network. They talked about it at every family gathering. My sister saw it as a major opportunity. My parents were proud to support her. They still didn't know I was the keynote. The day of the food festival arrived. It was a massive event held downtown in the convention center. The space was enormous. High ceilings with industrial beams. Booths lined the halls in perfect rows. The smell of fresh bread, roasted coffee, and spiced meats filled the air. Caramel and chocolate, garlic and herbs. It was overwhelming and wonderful. Thousands of people walked through, sampling dishes and watching live cooking demos. Chefs worked on stages scattered throughout the venue. Knife skills. Pastry techniques, molecular gastronomy. My sister attended expecting to network with potential investors. She wore a designer suit and carried business cards in a leather holder. My parents walked beside her, proud and eager. My mom wore her best jewelry. My dad had his networking smile on. They moved through the crowd like they owned the place. My brother tagged along, already sampling everything he could find. I stayed backstage, my heart hammering. I could hear the crowd through the curtain. The energy was electric. The announcer was introducing the day's schedule, cooking competitions, tastings, panel discussions. Then it was time. The announcer's voice boomed through the speakers. Please welcome Olivia Carter, founder of Carter's Kitchen and creator of the Baking from Scratch digital platform. The big screen lit up. My bakery logo appeared first. The simple design I'd drawn on a napkin years ago. Then my anonymous channel's branding appeared beside it, side by side. The connection was clear. The crowd erupted in applause. I heard gasps, excited chatter. My family froze. I watched from backstage as my sister's face went pale. Her mouth opened slightly. Her hand dropped to her side. That's not possible, she whispered to my mom. But it was. I stepped onto the stage. The lights were hot and bright. I couldn't see individual faces in the audience, but I knew they were out there, somewhere in that crowd, watching. I began my speech. I talked about building something quietly. About working before dawn while others slept. About kneading dough until my hands ached. About being told my work was small. About hearing the word amateur and letting it fuel me instead of break me. My voice stayed steady. I didn't cry. I didn't flinch. The crowd applauded after every major point. I shared numbers, revenue, growth percentages, expansion plans, things my family had never asked about. Sponsors stood and praised my business model during the queue and a session. They talked about my reach and my influence, my engagement rates and my authenticity. A reporter from the local paper asked about expansion plans. I looked directly into the camera. Sometimes the people closest to you see you the least, I said calmly. The applause was deafening. People stood. I saw phones recording, cameras flashing. My sister tried to approach me backstage afterward. Security almost stopped her, but I nodded them away. She walked toward me slowly. Her confidence was gone. Why didn't you tell us? She asked. Her voice cracked. I looked at her for a long moment. The backstage area smelled like sweat and hairspray. Staff members rushed past us carrying equipment. You never asked, I said simply. My parents stood a few feet behind her, speechless. My dad's mouth opened, but nothing came out. My mom clutched her purse like it was a life raft. The power dynamic had completely flipped. Public recognition had replaced private humiliation, and I hadn't needed their permission for any of it. I expanded my bakery 6 months later. The new space included a teaching kitchen where I hosted weekend classes, a podcast studio where I interviewed other small business owners, a retail section for merchandise and branded products. The walls were painted warm cream. The floors were reclaimed wood. Everything smelled like vanilla and fresh coffee. I stopped bringing desserts to family gatherings to earn approval. I attended when I wanted to, and I left when I didn't. I set boundaries. I said no without explaining myself. My niece visits my shop every Saturday now. She helps me decorate cookies and asks questions about business. She wants to know how I got started, what mistakes I made, what I'd do differently. I answer honestly. I don't sugarcoat the hard parts. My parents attempted awkward apologies over email, long messages about being proud of me, about not understanding, about wanting to support me now. I read them but didn't respond right away. I needed space more than I needed drama. I needed time to heal. Eventually, I replied. I kept it brief. Thank you, I'm building something I'm proud of. That's enough for me now. I finally understood that success doesn't need their validation. It never did. The only approval that mattered was my own. My final thought, the one I carry with me every morning when I unlock the bakery doors at 4 a.m., is this. They laughed at my pie, but they never realized I own the oven. And now I own 3. Have you ever built something people called small? Have you ever smiled while someone mocked your dream? If you've been underestimated, this story is for you. Subscribe to this community where quiet builders are celebrated. Share your story in the comments. What dream did people laugh at? What did you create anyway? Your work matters. Your effort matters. And your success doesn't need permission. Click hype to help this story reach others who need it. Let's create a space where ambition isn't measured by noise. Where hard work speaks louder than empty praise. Where the people who start at 4 a.m. get the recognition they deserve. Your story has power. If you felt a connection to mine, please subscribe and share your journey in the comments. Every hype you give this video helps empower someone else who's building quietly. Thank you for being here. Thank you for listening. And if you're working on something people don't understand yet, don't stop. One day they'll see it, or they won't, but you will. And that's enough. Keep building. Keep creating. Keep proving them wrong by succeeding on your own terms. The quiet ones always surprise them in the end.